Hello everyone, this is the Underdog, and I wanted to cover a story from the BBC Social. I believe this is their new page that they have on their website, and it is it is basically claiming that. Or I should rather read the headline: How Donkey Kong Became a Trans Icon by Laura Dale. Laura Dale was a friend, if I'm not mistaken, of Total Biscuit, and also made some claims about Persona 5 character Joker making ableist slurs in Super Smash Brothers, which were debunked. So this person has made some claims in the past that aren't completely true. I haven't read this article. It is a little bit long, but not too long. So let's actually go over it. I want to be fair to the author, and actually read this article earnestly. So, as a full-time gaming critic as well as a transgender woman. Okay, what does that have to do with anything? One aspect of video games I find really interesting is live streaming, where gamers play games for an audience who can watch along and interact by talking to the person playing the game. Streaming has become a huge part of gaming in the past few years, as it acts as a space for people to mix gaming with personality. Some truly wonderful stories have come out of the game streaming space. Last year, the worlds of gaming, streaming, and the trans community overlapped, garnering worldwide attention far beyond those audiences usually interested in video games. So that's fine indeed, but what does your identity have to do with it? Why do you lead the article with that? Anyways, over the past few years, one aspect of streaming which has become more and more prevalent over time is charity streams, where players set a lengthy or complicated video game task and vow to keep playing alive until it's completed, as a way to encourage donations for a certain cause, which I don't have an issue with. I have my mod in my Discord usually does this a few times a year, if I'm not mistaken. DDR Freak, and I support him in that cause. So some games done quick, for example, where gamers annually try to complete games as quickly as possible, brought in over $2 million last year during a single event. Twitch, the place where most of these live streams take place, estimates that 75 million was raised for charity with live streams between 2012 and 2017. Yeah, but gamers only get portrayed, so I have to actually give props to this. That it actually portrays gamers as something positive. So, which should give you an idea how big charity streams can become if they manage to take off. That's a decent point. So far so good. The article seems fair so far. However, today we're here to talk about a particular video game charity stream, the 2019 H-Bomber guy Donkey Kong livestream. Well, that guy is a massive SJW, of course, which made international headlines not just because of the money it raised, and the story behind the stream's creation, but also for the unbelievable number of hugely famous people outside of the gaming community who came to lend their support to the stream, and the transgender community. What made this particular live stream so special and such an important moment of supporters for the transgender community is that for a few days it felt like the whole world was standing up for us. As a trans woman, I hate that argument. As someone, as a woman, as someone, I try not to use it myself, but I just. Using yourself as the go-to thing for an argument is just something I cannot stand. But that aside, someone who is often made to feel lesser or harassed within the gaming community. Okay, Jesus Christ. Okay, now this is getting victim mentality BS. Everyone has been harassed within the gaming community, so this is BS. The stream felt like it was drowning out that hate for a few days, and it showed that while one loud man with a megaphone can do their best to financially strip support from the transgender community, the world can come together and undo the monetary harm. Okay. But what actually happened? Well, let's start off with a little background on the events that led to the live streaming taking place. Back in early 2019, the UK's big lottery fund, which distributes funds from the UK's national lottery to good causes, announced that a planned £500,000 grant for the charity Mermaids was being reconsidered and was at risk of being cancelled. The charity, which provides important resources and support as counselling to transgender people under the age of 18 and their families, was at the time facing attempts to have funding decision revoked by those who oppose to increased rights for the transgender community. Okay. I have actually an issue with this. I don't know anything about the organization, but the way you portray this seems you're omitting facts here, because in my opinion, children should not be they should not have any influence with any transgenderism or going on hormones or anything like that. And I believe that there are other ways to support the ways of transgender community. That's just my personal opinion, and this is just looking at what this person is saying. This is where Hbomberguy or Harry Brewis becomes part of the story. Brewis is perhaps best known for his Hbomberguy YouTube channel. Yeah, he's a smug SOB, if you're asking me, where he creates a long-form video essays about political issues as well as critiques of pop culture, including video games. More like he creates straw man arguments and uses identity politics to and others as a shield for criticism. That's my opinion, at least. As you might notice, I'm not a big fan of the guy. So, Brewis decided to host a charity live stream to try and recoup some of the funds that Mermaids were at risk of losing. He picked the game Donkey Kong 64 and decided to play it to a ludicrous degree of perfection, raising money for the charity and discussing topics around the rights of transgender people along the way. Listen, I'm not trying to be a D-bag, but what rights do transgender people not have compared to everyone else? I'm just posing this question because I can't think of any. Around this time, Brewis contacted Casey Explosion, another streamer who is herself transgender and such. Why does that matter? Why? Oh my god. And sought her help setting up guests to join his planned 50-hour long stream. The hope was together that they could get a few names to hop on, draw attention to the stream, and help raise some more money for the charity. When Hbomberguy was doing charity stream, he reached out to me with the idea being he'd have some guests on and talk with him while he was gaming, so that when he was gaming it wouldn't just be dead air. When all that dust settled, the stream raised £265,000. Well, good. But again, you actually do it on your own, making a stream to raise money for this. But your big issue is that someone else has to raise the money for you. You just proved the point of this lottery, that you can do it yourself. Just saying. A charity which supports young transgender people, and nobody was more shocked about that than the charity themselves. Helen, who worked as a volunteer during the live stream, said, "We'd never heard of Harry Brewer. Nobody had said to us that he was doing anything. He did a usual thing of saying, 'Thanks so much, you're ever so generous, and that's great.' He didn't really think much more about it, and I thought I'll check up and see how they're getting up and on in the morning, and kind of weird random online things. So I went to bed, got up next morning, and think by then it was £20,000. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Obviously, the money was amazing, but one of the things that was really obvious when you went on the stream itself was a message of support for trans kids and young people. I just hate that sentence. Again, I'm gonna use Deborah So as a source for my argument. Because it says most trans kids, or so-called allegedly trans kids, just turn out to be either gay or just normal kids. So, yeah. When you went and looked on the thread, literally every couple of seconds there was popping up a support trans kids, and I saw this and thought this is what families and kids should be looking at. This is what they should be aware of. Then it's sort of like Saturday afternoon, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez retweeted a tweet we put out saying, "This is amazing, isn't it great?" She actually then quote tweeted, and suddenly we saw numbers that were in their hundreds in terms of people on the feed at any one time, and going up into literally thousands and thousands of people. Well, good for you. One of the first people I tweeted was Cher. She retweeted. It was so exciting when you saw the message stream on tweet. Normally it's really slow, but it was like a toilet roll rolling off. It was moving so quickly. AOC came on, Chelsea Manning as well, Mara Wilson went on and spoke to Harry. It must have been about 2 or 3 in the morning. That whole weekend for me is totally surreal now, sitting in the back and looking at it. When AOC came on, everything went ballistic. You couldn't even read the messages. They were just going so fast. I mean, it's good she is using this as a platform, but she is so wrong on so many issues that I wouldn't hedge my bets on her as like the arbiter of anything. That's just my opinion. The other thing with the AOC, Chelsea Manning, Mara Wilson coming on is that all these young people were hearing this, and this as well as such a massively positive message after a really crappy couple of months. At 77k, Harry broke down and had a cry because he thought he was going to make £3,000 or £4,000 an hour. He kept on making himself little challenges. If you make another 10 grand in the next hour, I'll go to the supermarket, written on my forehead. One of the lovely things that he had this team, and they were running the show while he was sleeping. Actually, one of the most poignant thing was the voices that came through that time. While he wasn't playing it, there was a lot of trans people on talking about their stories. Remember, he got a young person, and I had spoken to them on the helpline, and they said they thought we would have been dead if they hadn't found someone to talk to who understood. I had a conversation with her as well as online, and that was really moving. Yeah, that's a good thing. There was another person who had desperately crowdfunding for months and months for a wheelchair. By the time they came off Twitch stream, the wheelchair had been crowdfunded and more. Essentially, for Mermaids as an organization, I think we took on 5 members of staff based on having that much in the bank in terms of unrestricted funded, so it gave us a boost. As a small charity, one of the things that is always difficult to even have, even if you go for grants and apply for project, etc., is actually getting core funding that covers your baseline functions and the salaries. Actually getting on with the general running costs of the charity is one of the hardest things to do, and this gave us an enormous boost, and it also allowed us to put people into places we knew were desperately needed, but we didn't just have the funds to be able to do. We got to the middle of February, and then the lottery confirmed that they were going to give us the grant because they looked into all the accusations made against us and found them to be baseless. Okay. Well, it's undeniably amazing how much money this charity stream was able to raise. I think the bigger part of its legacy is undoubtedly the fact that it turned the simple word phrasing trans rights into a rallying cry. A call for people to share a simple message of support in the face of a world where I actually was supportive mostly of this article, but then again you have to act like a victim in the face of a world where transphobic rhetoric and abuse are on the rise. Citation needed. What is the source of this claim? This is bullcrap. Seeing people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Mara Wilson, Adam Conover, Chuck Tingle, Grant Kirkhope, Neil Gaiman, Cher, Adam Savage, and more coming together and announce their explicit support of the transgender community and our fight for our rights, felt like for a brief moment the tides were shifting. Mainstream media, celebrities, everyone is supporting you. But if you talk about biology or politics, you have to act like a victim. This is why I hate this sort of conversation. I'm friends with several transgender people, and they don't want people like this to speak for them. That's just my impression of things. It was a few days where, as a trans person in the video game industry, I felt excited, safe, and welcome. Who is excluding trans people in the gaming community? No one. Sure, trans rights as a phrase lacks nuance. That phrase alone is intangible. Fighting for improved rights. What rights? You have all the rights. But you even have the rights that taxpayers pay for your operations. You made articles that now during this pandemic, life-saving surgeries for trans people is on hold, and they're going to make people suffer. This is why I can't take the people like this seriously when they make arguments like this, because it's narcissism and making them feel like a victim. That's why I can't. I just don't like these people when they make arguments like this. That phrase alone, fighting for improved rights, but it's a powerful start. It's a phrase that says you're safe with me, and honestly, as a trans person, this is the third time or fourth time you use that argument. Just knowing which celebrities I can safely enjoy without worrying that they secretly wish I didn't exist is a relief. Oh my god! Why do you look to celebrities? My god! Oh! If nothing else, we can smile knowing not a simple JPEG of a video game gorilla protagonist is now a powerful act of protest. No, he's not. You used him for a stream, and that's it. Donkey Kong is not a Nintendo, as far as I know, are non-political. They didn't want to, for example, to have the trans flag on Smash Bros. Because they don't want to be political, and people from your sphere, the left-wing H-Bomber guy, Adam Savage, etc., as SJWs, cried about this. Let's see where that his attempt to remove video game protagonists is now a powerful act of protest, a way to remind that one man that his attempt to remove financial support from the trans community failed in a spectacular fashion, only serving to bring our supporters together. This story tells us that in the attempt to defund mermaids, those who sought to harm our community ultimately brought trans allies visibly together. No matter how much you may wish to remove the rights from one, this is just a false equivalency. Removing funding is not removing rights. And the first half of this article is actually rather decent, with just minor issues, but this is just spewing garbage. Jesus Christ. No matter how much you wish to remove the rights from one community group, know that there's probably a gamer around the corner willing to raise that money that you're trying to remove. So you just contradicted yourself. So you have people that will support you, but you bitch about losing rights. Jesus Christ. Gaming streams are the new telethons. If telethons allowed every person watching to shout their support from the rooftops while they watch along, they have a global reach to bring causes across the borders. Long may that continue. Yeah. So you bitch about losing rights, not stating which rights get removed. You solve your own problems by doing something instead of what you're doing in this article, which is bitching about other people having to do something for you. This is just all over the place and just nonsense for the most part. Except for I don't really mind the charity. I don't know much about it. If it's horrible, please let me know. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye.